Hi programmers, this is going to be a quick one about user rights in a multi-user session. Welcome to anyone who's joining us for the first time. I'm Kat and this is Consoletrainer. Today's tutorial was another subscriber request, which I love, so if you've got something that you want me to cover, leave it in the comments below. A multi-user session is normally when you have multiple programmers working on the same show file from different consoles in the same session. A typical example would be one programmer who's building the lighting cues and another who's programming video. Or you might have multiple stages in one show file and each programmer logs in to control their own stage. Or maybe it's just one stage and you've got one programmer running key lights and another running everything else. Maybe you just have one programmer building the show, but someone else needs to log in remotely in order to troubleshoot and tech the rig. All those users are assigned rights. A full tracking backup session with two consoles is probably set up with both consoles logged in as the same user, but even that user gets rights assigned. If you don't know about full tracking backups, I've got a video that will take you through how to do it. Today, I'm using software version 3.9.51.2, and there are a couple of things in user rights that I don't think are functioning as they're meant to. I'll try to explain as best I can, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's take a look at our user profiles. Hit the Setup key, and under Console, select User and Profiles Setup. You're going to want every programmer to have both their own user and their own user profile. Let's really quick make a new user and profile so we can take a look at this. I'm going to copy my user profile to a new profile just to save time, and I'll give it a new name. Then under User, I'll click New and call this New Guy. By the way, the name you pick here is the name you use to log in. For New Guy's user profile, I'll pick that new one that I just copied. Now we come to the rights. Notice that rights are assigned to the user, not the user profile. If you can't access the dropdown for rights, it's probably because someone is already logged in as that user. You can only change this option when they're not logged in. Since this is a brand new user, we're good. In the dropdown, we've got a bunch of options, and they basically run from giving the user the most access up at the top to the least access at the bottom. Admin gives us full access to everything. It's the default, and it's probably how you're already working in your show file. With setup, the name is a little misleading. Instead of saying you have access to setup functions, the name is actually describing what you don't have access to, which is going to be some of the options in setup like managing user profiles, software updates, keyboard shortcuts, and wing and monitor setups. Otherwise, everything else is available to you. The program right has the same restrictions as setup, but additionally, you can only access patch only, the live access, not the full access of the patch and fixture schedule. You can still play back cues and make edits and store new presets and cues. For the preset right, we have the same setup restrictions as the previous two, but we also lose access to patch only, so there's no patch access whatsoever. This user can play back cues, but they can't edit them or create cues. When they try, they'll get the insufficient user rights for action pop-up. The only thing that preset users are supposed to be able to edit are presets, but if you try this in version 3.9.51.2, you're going to find that you can't. Do I think this is a bug? Yeah. Do I think I could be wrong? Absolutely. Do I think this can be fixed? I just don't know. And a fun passive-aggressive thing that the console does to preset users is that it will allow them to see the auto-create menu, but the fixtures are grayed out, so they can't actually use it to auto-create presets. In the Playback Right, this user can play cues and make changes in the programmer that you'll see on stage, but can't actually store anything from the programmer anywhere. They can't edit cues or presets either. They also can't load a show. None is really just for following along, and I think this may have been called Designer at one point. This user can change views and access a couple of setting options, but you can't program anything or play back any cues. No session changes are allowed, and they can't even open the backup menu. Now technically, the None user is not supposed to be able to select fixtures and make changes to the stage output, and if they click a group or try to key in a number, the console won't let them. But I found that this user can select a fixture in the fixture sheet and affect its output that way. I don't think this was intended, but perhaps I'm wrong. When you're in a situation with multiple programmers, you're probably both going to be set as admins, but you might want to consider restricting access to parts of the rig for each programmer so that you don't step on each other. You can assign a world to a user, but that's actually assigned to the user's profile. In that multiple stage example, we might have a world for each stage and each user might be assigned to that stage's world. Now, if you do this, even though the user can see the other worlds in their worlds pool, they won't be able to access them without coming back to the user window. I think for most of us in a multi-programmer scenario, even if we're each assigned to different fixtures, we'd probably leave this cell as none, meaning we can still go into our own world for most of the time, but we have the ease of using the worlds pool when we need to jump between worlds. If you found this interesting and want to investigate it further, give it a try on your own show files. If you find some other weird access abilities, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.